Hello and welcome. This is slow, calm B1 English for a quiet evening. Tonight, you'll hear two gentle stories about a day by the sea. Then, we'll review 10 phrases, practice quietly, and listen one more time, even more slowly. Listen for 6 of them. The sound of the waves, salt in the air, and warm sand. To walk along the shore, the horizon, and to sit and watch the water. If you miss a word, let it go. Another one will come. You can practice the phrases in Recursio another day. The link is in the description. For now, just listen. It is the last week of August in a small town by the sea. Mira wakes up before her alarm, which never happens at home. The room is gray and cool. The shutters are closed, but there is a thin white line of light between them. She lies still for a moment and listens. The sound of the waves is already there. It was there all night, under her sleep, and it is there now. She puts on yesterday's dress and takes her shoes in her hand. The hallway is quiet. The kitchen is dark. Nobody in the house is awake yet. Outside, the air is cool and it smells of salt. Salt in the air, and something green from the gardens, and bread from somewhere she can't see. It is 200 steps to the beach. She has counted them on another morning. Down the lane between 2 white walls, past the bakery, which is open but has no customers yet. Past the blue door that is always shut, and the cat that is always on the step in front of it. Then the road ends, and there is nothing between her and the water. The beach is empty. Not one towel, not one umbrella, only a boat pulled up onto the sand, and a man far away with a dog. The sand is cold at first, right at the edge of the water. Higher up, away from the water, she finds warm sand under her feet. Mira leaves her shoes on a rock and starts to walk along the shore. She walks with the water on her left, in the wet part where the sand is hard and easy to walk on. The sound of the waves changes as she walks along the shore. In one place it is loud, and there are stones under the water. 100 steps later, it is soft, almost nothing, just a long breath in and a long breath out. She stops sometimes, not for anything, just to stop. The water comes up over her feet and goes away again. It is colder than she expects every single time. She stands there until the sand under her heels is soft and she sinks a little. There is a lot to look at if you decide that small things count. A white shell with a hole in it. A piece of green glass made smooth by the sea. A line of small birds that run away from the water and then run after it. A long brown line of dry seaweed exactly where the sea stopped last night. One shoe, only one, and quite far from the water. She decides not to think about where the other one is. Mira picks up the green glass and puts it in her pocket. She will forget it there for a year. After a while, she looks up and out. The horizon is very clear this morning. One straight line, dark blue below and pale blue above, and nothing in the way. There is a ship on the horizon, so small that she isn't sure it's a ship. She watches it for a long time to see which way it is going, and she never finds out. There is something in her chest that opens up when she looks that far. At home, there is a wall 30 steps from her window. She has not looked at anything this far away for months. Looking across the open water feels restful. She sits down on the warm sand, higher up, and puts her hands behind her. From here, she can sit and watch the water without looking at anything else at all. The waves come in at an angle this morning, one after another, never quite the same. The town starts to wake up behind her. A shutter opens. A scooter goes past on the road. Somebody calls a name twice. A man arrives with a towel over his shoulder and walks straight into the water. He begins to swim slowly, following the line of the shore. The sun is higher now, and the light on the water changes from pale silver to white. Near the boat, a woman comes out of the sea and sits on a towel to dry in the sun. Mira would like to come back after breakfast, perhaps to stay until evening. Mira walks back the way she came, and her own footprints are still there in the wet sand. Some of them have water in them now. The man with the dog passes her going the other way and says good morning, and she says it back. For now, it is the only sentence she needs. She finds her shoes on the rock. She does not put them on. It is 7:15, and the whole day is still in front of her. Now, slowly, the 10 phrases. The sound of the waves, the noise the sea makes as the water comes in and goes out. It may be soft or loud, steady or changing. I sleep well here. I like the sound of the waves. Salt in the air. Near the sea, you may notice a salty smell or taste in the air. You can smell the salt in the air from the bus stop. Warm sand. Sand that the sun has warmed. It may feel comfortable under your feet when it is not too hot. We put the towels down on the warm sand. To walk along the shore. The shore is the edge of the land where it meets the water. You walk on it, following the line of the sea. Every morning, we walk along the shore for an hour. The horizon, the line far away where the sea seems to meet the sky. There was one small ship on the horizon. To sit and watch the water. To sit without doing anything else and look at the sea. I don't need a book. I can sit and watch the water for hours. The light on the water. The bright, moving light the sun makes on the surface of the sea. In the evening, the light on the water turns orange. To swim slowly. To move through the water without hurrying. In these stories, the swimmers are not racing or exercising. He swims slowly, out to the rocks and back. To dry in the sun, to let the warmth and the air dry the water on your skin instead of using a towel. I stayed on the warm stones and dried in the sun. To stay until evening, to remain somewhere until evening instead of leaving earlier. We took some bread and cheese, and we stayed until evening. Now, the same beach, the same day, later, and a different person. Tomas is 61, and he has been coming to this same beach since he was a boy. He arrives at 4 in the afternoon, when most people are starting to leave. This is on purpose. He spent the hot hours in a chair in the shade, with the radio on very low. He brings 3 things: an old towel, a bottle of water, and a paper bag with bread and 2 tomatoes. He puts the towel on the stones at the far end, past where the sand stops. The stones here hold the heat, and by 4 o'clock, their surfaces are warm. He knows these stones. He knows which ones are flat enough to lie on, and he knows the one with the sharp edge. When he was 8, this end of the beach was where the fishermen kept their nets. Now there is a metal ladder into the water, and a sign about jellyfish that has been there for years. For a while, Tomas does nothing at all. He sits and watches the water. This is the main activity of his week, and he takes it seriously. The sea is calm today. Small waves, no wind. The light on the water is white and hard to look at. Two children are swimming near the rope, calling to each other as they play. Their mother is standing in the water, up to her knees, with her arms folded, watching them and not swimming. At 4:30, Tomas goes in. He walks in slowly and stops when the water is at his chest and breathes out. Then he swims slowly out toward the rocks. He is not a fast swimmer, and he has never been one. He goes with his head up, and every so often he stops and floats and looks back at the town. From out here, the town is small. 3 streets, a church, and the hotel with the blue shutters. He can see the window of the room where his grandmother lived, and the tree that is taller than the house now. The sound of the waves is different from inside the water, nearer and quieter at the same time. He turns at the rocks and comes back, and it takes him twice as long as it used to. This bothers him less than he thought it would. Back on the stones, he lies down and dries in the sun. He does not use the towel for drying. The towel is to lie on. He dries in the sun with his eyes closed, and he can feel the salt drying on his shoulders. Salt in the air, and salt on his arms, and the taste of it on his lips. A little wind comes up and goes away again, and small lines move across the water. At 6, he eats the bread and the tomatoes, slowly, with salt from a small paper packet. The children have gone. The mother has gone. Somebody has left one small red bucket near the water. This is the part he comes for, and it is the part few people photograph. The beach after the busy part of the day. Everything is still warm, and almost nobody is left. The light changes. It comes lower and from the side. Now, the light on the water is not white anymore. It is gold, and then it is orange. There is a bright path across the sea, from the horizon to the stones, and it moves when the water moves. Thomas could go home. Dinner is at 8, and it is a 10-minute walk. He decides to stay until evening. He always decides to stay until evening, and he always makes it sound like a new idea. The horizon is soft now, not the hard line it was this morning. Sea and sky are almost the same color out there. A boat comes in and passes the rocks, and the man in it lifts one hand. Thomas lifts one hand back, They have never spoken. The sun goes down over the sea, off to the right, and the stones start to give their heat back. When he finally stands up, the water is dark and the sky is still bright. He folds the towel. He picks up the red bucket and leaves it by the steps where somebody will find it. Then he walks up into the town, 200 steps more or less, though he has never counted them. Now a few quiet questions. Try them in your mind, or just listen if you feel sleepy. The noise the sea makes as the water comes in and goes out. The sound of the waves. The phrase for walking for an hour at the edge of the sea, following the water. To walk along the shore. The far line where the sea seems to meet the sky. The horizon. Thomas came out and lay on the stones with his eyes closed, and he did not use the towel. What did he do? He dried in the sun. Mira sat down higher up, away from the water. What was under her? Warm sand. What do we call the bright, moving light the sun makes on the sea? The light on the water. You remained there until evening instead of leaving earlier. You stay until evening. And when you sit down with no book and no phone and just look at the sea, you sit and watch the water. Not fast. You move through the water without hurrying. You swim slowly. And the salty smell you may notice near the sea. Salt in the air. One more time now, more slowly. No work here, just listening. It is early, and the beach is empty. The sound of the waves was there all night. Salt in the air. Warm sand higher up. Cool sand at the edge of the water. You walk along the shore with the water on your left. You stop for no particular reason. The water comes over your feet and goes away again. A shell, a piece of green glass, smooth from the sea. The horizon is one clear line. A ship so small you are not sure it is a ship. Looking far across the water feels restful. Later, in the afternoon, the stones are warm on the surface. You sit and watch the water. You swim slowly out toward the rocks and stop and float. Then you lie on the towel and dry in the sun. The light on the water turns from white to gold. A bright path from the horizon to the stones. And you decide to stay until evening. The water goes dark. The sky stays bright a little longer. The stones give their heat back. Salt on your skin and the quiet evening ahead. The 10 phrases, one last time. The sound of the waves. Salt in the air. Warm sand. To walk along the shore. The horizon. To sit and watch the water. The light on the water. To swim slowly. To dry in the sun. To stay until evening. That's all for tonight. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to practice these phrases when you're awake, the link is below. Sleep well, or have a good evening, wherever you are.